Okay, we're live. So I just finished reading the Saxon Dawn by Griff Hosker. This is book one of the Wolf Brethren, which is a multi-book. I should look this up. I don't. It's more than three. It's a multi-book series, and finished that Friday night. I actually finished it overnight because sometimes I can't sleep, and so I like to read a lot of my books on Kindle on my phone because I can just pop this up without turning on the light. So if I'm by myself, it keeps me from like waking up completely because you turn on the lights and then your brain is like, okay, the lights are on, time to wake up. But also when Laura's with me, she's usually with me Friday or Saturday night. Um, I can read in the middle of the night, which helps me fall back asleep while she without disturbing her. So that was a lot to say. That has nothing to do with why we're here. Got a book review. This is by Griff Hosker. Griff is a very nice guy. I'm Facebook friends with him. He's been very kind to me. He's a big deal in the literary world, very well known in the historical fiction, action, adventure, and military uh, genre. He has written, I think last time I checked, he has written books that span from the Roman Empire all the way to World War II, I believe. So, and he's very prolific. He was on Rock Paper Swords, and I mean, I knew who he was before he was on that show, and I just couldn't believe what a nice guy he was. He's written like over, I gotta say, I'm not exaggerating. I think around 180 books. Uh, and he's constantly putting new stuff out. And at some point, I put it on my list that I wasn't specific. I just wanted to read something from him because I just wanted to sample what his writing is like. And so this is a book I got. I got it from the public library, and I'll say I enjoyed it. First of all, let's do the intro. Who am I? My name is Cody Siangdo. I'm the author. I'm the author of 6 novels. I just put out my last one, The French Fiasco. If you want to check out my novels, check out the description below. And while you're down there, sign up for my email list and like this video and subscribe to this channel. I we're basically going to talk about. I do book reviews, but I also talk about as an independent author. I talk a lot about my own journey. I don't come at you as an expert, just somebody who is on the journey who may have some experience here and there. I've made mistakes. I've also had great successes. And somewhere in all that, I've probably got a few things that are worthwhile to hear. So anyway, let's get into it. So I finished this overnight from Friday, from Friday night to Saturday morning. I'm trying to get my review to pop up here. And then why is that not coming up? Nothing works the way it's supposed to work. Okay, there we go. Uh, and and then Saturday morning, this would be making excuses. Laura was here, so we spend time. We sleep in together. I make her breakfast, and we talk, and I read news articles and all that kind of stuff. And then she gets up and leaves between 11 and noon, and so as soon as she left, I sat down and started writing this review and sharing it everywhere, and then didn't get around to doing the live until today. So she stayed Saturday night too. Her condo got flooded, so she's staying at her parents. Her father's passed away, and her mother is in a nursing home. So the house. I shouldn't say all that because well, Laura's staying at the house right now, and it's just about 5 minutes over. So all that to say is that she's been staying over here instead of us switching back and forth because where she's staying right now isn't really conducive to uh, entertaining company like me. So today she was here this morning, and once I got her up and out, started working on my own chores, which one of which was take a big long nap. I am recovering from cancer, so I have it coming to me. And so now we're doing the live here. Just so you know, I'm getting a lot better, but I still have a very sore mouth, and it affects the way I speak. So if you're wondering why I'm slurring, it's because I'm recovering from the radiation treatment, and maybe chemotherapy. Therapy. I'm not quite sure. So anyway, enough about me. Or the joke is, I'm tired of talking about myself. What do you think of me? Let's talk about this book here. So this is book one of the Wolf Brethren series by Griff Hosker. Like I said, Griff's a excellent guy, prolific writer. I will say this: I have been, I am reading faster as have made it part of my job to read other novels and then to write reviews and then do this process. So the books have been going through uh, faster for me. But I will say, I was surprised at how quickly I moved through this book. I was like, wow, I'm flying through this. And well, I looked it up, and it's only 230 pages, which I think is great. Like if you read like Louis de L'Amour, the guy who wrote all those westerns, his books are like 150 to 200 pages. They're fast reads. So they're not like huge, like deep, lots of plot or things like that. It's just a good action book that's rooted in real history. And I would say that this book is like that too. Griff has done his homework, so you really feel like you're there. And well, let's get into the review. But all I'll say is that it's a fast read. If you get the print version, I think the print version is at 228 pages. And then the Kindle version, which I read, is rated by Kindle as 230 pages if you were to read it like a Kindle Unlimited. So, all right, here we go. A review of Saxon Dawn, Wolf Brethren Book 1 by Griff Hosker, Rise of the Wolf Brothers. Saxon Dawn is a compelling start to what looks to be a riveting series. It's the origin story of our hero, Lan, told in the first person. He's 7 years old when the narrative begins. We watch his beginning as a shepherd boy who learns to use the sling and then a bow to hunt as his father teaches him and his brothers how to survive off the land. This is the same time he first hears of the Anglo-Saxon invasion and the raiding parties which destroy villages, rape, kill, and take people away as slaves. At the dawn of his manhood, the invaders finally arrive at his family hilltop commune, causing tragedy that will put him and his younger brothers into the wilderness, where they must use their father's lessons to survive. From there, Lam and his brothers grow from boys hiding in the woods to powerful warlords in the fight against the invasion. This book paints, This book paints a vivid picture of the post-Roman world, of the post-Roman world of the late 6th century Britain. The characters live in the nostalgic shadow of the once powerful empire as they build their own world. We see the foundations of medieval society as the kingdom of Reged grows and gives rise to the first lords who must build their fiefdoms from the remnants of the old Roman forts and leftover weapons. The battle scenes are vivid and intense with explanations on how the weapons and tactics of the times worked. I like historical fiction that teaches as it entertains, and Griff Hosker does an excellent job balancing the two. There's a historical note at the end that explains much of the real aspects of the stories, as well as a glossary that denotes which characters were real historical figures. And there's plenty of real historical figures, and including the King of Reged. The main character, Lan, is not a historical character. And so this is a very interesting period of time. And it's one that I think that, every period, I guess, has its pluses and minuses. And the one thing I would say about this era, and I will call it the sub-Roman era, it's like that era, I would say, from when the Romans leave to the arrival of the Norman conquest in 1060 something. 1066 is the Battle of Hastings. So the Norman invasion sometime just before that. But this is the era in which which we call the Dark Ages. It's the early medieval period, and the Middle Ages are usually broken into three periods. There's the Dark Ages. If we look at Britain, for example, that would be like for late 400s, early 500s. This is the departure of the Romans, who had conquered Britain 400 years before, and basically tamed the Britons that lived there from a warlike people to a more domesticated farmers, leaving them kind of defenseless, so that when they left, uh, uh, that they were basically a soft target for the Anglo-Saxons and the Jutes that came over from Frisia. What is the name of that? Basically, they came from the peninsula where Denmark is, and it's interesting because you have the Anglo-Saxon invasion, and most modern day British people are actually of Anglo-Saxon descent and not of Britain descent, which is the people before the Anglo-Saxons. And then in the late 700s starts the Viking era, in which the Danes and the Norse start invading and conquering the people who had conquered before. So there's, I always say Britain is an island, and the language itself too is just one group conquering the next group. So you have like the Britons that show up, who are Celtic people, and they may have conquered or displaced the people that had been living there before. And then you have, and then later comes the Anglo-Saxons or the Romans. The Romans kind of leave their stamp on the island, leave, and then you have the Anglo-Saxons and the Jutes, and basically Anglo, land of the Anglos, England is where the name England comes from, land of the Anglos, and they build their petty kingdoms. Eventually, those kingdoms unite as a united England against the Viking invasions. There are many. There are some Danish kings that rule over Britain, and all the way up to the Norman invasion, which Normans were like basically Frankified Vikings. The Normans were Vikings who conquered the northern coast area of what we know as France, and became Frankified. They settled there. They became, took on the language, the French language, and so they're basically French Vikings. Came and then conquered Britain again, and then eventually assimilated. But my understanding is that most native British people today are strongly Anglo-Saxon more than, but I mean, some of them, of course, England's becoming a melting pot, and there are people with the um, old Britannic blood, but the old Britons are not blonde-haired people, or red-haired with freckles, as a lot of people think, like Scotland and Ireland. Those are Anglo-Saxons. Those are Germanic people. The people that before the Celtics are more with darker people with dark hair, dark eyes, olive skin. A lot of the native Irish are that way. So anyway, I go way too far. What I'm trying to say is that writing in this era, there's not a lot of documentation. So you're free to. There's a lot of freedom in what you can write. You can create characters. You can create battles that no one can tell you they didn't happen. But at the same time, it's got to be tough because there isn't a lot of documentation. So most of what we know of that era comes from scholars that were writing down oral histories centuries later, and of the archaeological record. All right, let's get back into. Did I read all this? No, I read some of it. Let's see here. So back to that. The book paints a vivid picture of the post-Roman world of the late 6th century Britain. Characters. Okay, I read that part. The battle scenes are vivid and intense with explanation. Okay, I read that part too. Oh, I'm not doing a good job of this. Okay, so if you want to learn something about sub-Roman Britain while enjoying a rip-roaring adventure, join the Wolf Pack and read Saxon Dawn. And then, of course, here is a preview of the book that you can, I think, read the first 10% of it right off my. This is a link actually to the Amazon page, but right on my blog post you can read first 10%, and then of course my latest novel, which came out last week. You can also sample that as well, The French Fiasco. All right, let's get back to um, here we go. So yeah, I enjoyed this. It wasn't a big commitment to read it. Like I said, it was only 230 pages. I don't know if the subsequent novels in the series are that short, but the story. What I found interesting is that even like I've read a lot of like books that take place like in the 800s and 900s of Britain, and by that time, well, most of these kingdoms, these Anglo-Saxon kingdoms are well established, and if not England itself. And what's interesting about this is really the dawn of post-Roman Britain, in which like Reggae, the kingdom of Reggae is a real kingdom, and the king that he depicts in it was a real king. And but things are so basic, and I mean they're literally living in the shadow of Rome, like, well, not literally, but they figuratively. I mean, he talks about in the book that the character says that the Romans left even before his grandfather's time, but yet there's old castles and fortresses that these warlords are using and renovating to make their own castles. And the rise of this Lon, who's, like I said, he's 7 years old in the beginning. We see him go from a like a shepherd boy, learning how to use the sling, learning how to use a bow and arrow, eventually finding old Roman weapons and training with them. And then when he and his brothers are have to flee into the wilderness, they're starting from scratch, and it's really interesting. How would you survive? How would someone survive living in the wilderness at that time in Britain? And eventually they thrive and become soldiers for the king of Reged. And eventually that king, you have a kingdom, and eventually kings have lords that are underneath them. And so you see Reggie go from like a single castle kingdom to having outposts in which the very first lords of the king of Reged, which are, they're not using the term knight yet, but are the early knights of this kingdom. And you see how that's built from the ground up. One of the characters is sent out to an old Roman fort and told to use it as his fiefdom to help build an army, and goes out there and has to recruit men, um, uh, renovate the fortress to protect his people from like when the invaders come, all the peasants need to come to the fortress or the castle and hide inside the walls while the warriors defend them. So it is interesting. Oh, that's my alarm too. I'll take out the trash. I already did it. So I found it interesting in seeing the very there's reading Romans and there's reading Middle Ages, and I like both. I'm reading a Roman book now, but this book really kind of shows you the process of like building medieval society from the ground up, and I thought that was very interesting. Um, the battle scenes are good, make sense, and they're fighting in shield walls and using archery, and you see like the character kind of coming up with ideas that become customary later on in medieval life. So anyway, that's it. I really enjoyed it. It was a 200, like I said, 230 page read. I read it. I mean, quickly for me, I read it in 10 days. I probably could have, you could probably read it in a day if you wanted to, if you sat down and, spent all day reading. Um, so what's coming up for me now? So there was a couple authors that I had on my list that I know through just this, being in the literary world and knowing the other names out there. And some of them are Facebook friends with me. And Harry Sidebottom is one of them. And Harry is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I only know him through Facebook, but he's always been really kind and interacts with me. So I put him on the list. So I have one of his books. I think it's called Fire in the East. That one's I think a much bigger book, and the style is very different. It's almost shocking to go from one style to the next because Husker's style is very, very light, very easy to read. Harry Sidebottom is more complex, bigger sentence structure. Sometimes I have to go back and reread things like, wait a minute, what's going on? Or, they're in a tavern and there's multiple people talking. I have to go back and see, wait a minute, who's talking? But it's a very interesting story, and I was riveted right away. So we'll see how long it takes me to read that, and then we'll do a review. Harry Sidebottom, The Fire in the East. That is also book one of a series. Once again, it's a book I found at my library, so that will be next. As for me, well, I just launched my latest book, the French Fiasco. Had my best. If I don't sell another copy of it, I still had my best launch yet, including my best first 5 months. So that's great. Most of which came from pre-orders. So I had my best pre-order session, and so I have something to build on for the next one. What comes next? Well, I have a lot of things I want to do. I want to build some more Amazon ads for that book, and then I also, there's a couple other things I want to do, like but the big project is May 16th. I'll start writing my novella, and I'm writing a novella that's free and exclusive to my email list. So please sign up for it down below. And it's going to be called the Underground Railroad Ball. It is a prequel to Rampage on the River. It's basically starts just a couple days before Rampage on the River starts, and it's a Chester E. Newman. If you've read the trilogy, the Civil War, my Civil War trilogy, you'll know who he is. He's Carl's captain. It's about him, who is a sheriff's deputy, and he's trying to get his captaincy in the 2nd Michigan Cavalry, and he's got to deal with a runaway slave and the Fugitive Slave Act and Southern slave catchers, and balance all these things, and hopefully do the right thing. So that I'll start writing that in May. I want to do a synthesis of all my books have a glossary at the end. I'm gonna combine them all into one, and then I'm gonna give that to free to my email list. And actually, I'm gonna publish it on Amazon as a free utility that people can download. If you want a print copy of it, we'll sell it right at whatever the print cost is. So there's that, and yeah. And then once I get done, I'm hoping to get the railroad ball, the Underground Railroad Ball, done in 6 months. So 6 months, I think, is sometime in the fall, and then I'll take once again a month to reset, and then I'm gonna start writing Black James. And once I start writing Black James, I'm giving myself up to 2 years to write it. So we'll see. As far as cancer, I'm doing better. As you can tell, I'm sounding better. I'm still not right where I want to be as far as my voice. I'm starting to see a swallow therapist again next week to try to get me back to the point where I can eat. Yesterday I experimented with taking some sips of water, and so I'm building up being able to swallow again, because right now I can't even drink water. I have to take everything through a syringe. I have a syringe. I hook it up to my stomach tube, and plunge it into my stomach. That's it. As far as the lives, I don't know what I'm going to do next. We'll see. This one came early because I did what I think I did my launch stream on Friday and then finished Griff's book Friday night. And that was one of the reasons I didn't go live yesterday too. At least that's the excuse I'm going with. And so now this one is basically of this week. So I don't think I'll be doing another one this week. So we'll see what happens and if I have something to talk about. But I'm trying to get one of these out at least once a week. I'm going to leave it at that. Love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. If there's an author out there. Well, first of all, keep writing, keep reading. Especially if you're an author, keep reading too. And if there's an author out there you think is doing a great job and you want to help support, give them some stars. 5 stars is great. If you can do it on Amazon, Goodreads, and if you can write a few words as a review, doesn't have to be as long as mine. It could just be like, I really liked it. We're done. That's all we ask for. So anyway, I love you. I'll see you soon, and I'm going to sign out, and I'll see you with the next one.